Hi guys, today I'm going to teach you how to fight properly. Now, this is a very big thing in Fortnite, and there's many videos about this showing in-game stuff like Battle Royale, Reload, or stuff like that. But generally, I think it should be brief because naturally, I think you should learn how to fight by yourself because that'll be much better. Not tips by some person on YouTube on how to fight because they might be way better than you, are higher ranked than you, and probably don't really find normal people really hard. So, today I'm going to give you a brief on what things you should consider before taking a fight or after taking a fight. For example, let's say you have, say, 50 mats. It's endgame and it's to the top two in a solo cash cup finals. Now, generally, people try their best to conserve their mats, stay on low ground because they'll consume less mats, and just try to camp it out to get more points to get that earnings. This is the correct way of thinking. Instead, sometimes people might think in trying to W key and clutch up, but that's not really going to happen with one mat. So I'm going to talk about the different strategies you have to consider before taking fights and after taking fights. Okay guys, the first one is looking at how much health you have. This is widely used for really good. This one is generally used for a lot of pro players. If you don't know, they look at their health because it is important to look at your health. For example, let's say you're 50 HP. Then it's not really good to take a fight because sometimes you might fight people with 150 HP or 200 HP. Now what I suggest is you start a fight generally when you're at 150 HP. This is a normal casual health most people have at early game. For example, they just landed, they have 100 HP white, and now they found 3 minis. They take 2 of them and they got to 50 health. Wow, you're on 150 HP. And this is also a good way to fight because it's just better. Let's say you get taken one shot for the body. Let's say it's like a grey infiltrator and you take 70 damage. You still have some extra HP left to back away from that fight and get some more HP. But, of course, it's good to have 200 HP because this means it's very hard for you to get instant killed by 2 shots or 1 shot or even sometimes 3 shots. Finally, let's say the other player is a lower HP than you. Let's say they're a sweat and you know they are sweat because you can see their build moves. Storm is coming up. Now generally what I'll do is that I'll try to pressure them into Storm by placing builds because they probably have less. Because they're a sweat, they build more and they'll have less mats unless they recently got a refresh. So pressuring them into Storm makes them panic and potentially traverse or do movement. This is a key time to use your AR or SMG to spray them and potentially even kill them. This is really good because it can leave a threat from you in the lobby and make you focus on the more easy players. Instead, with the sweat, those easy players get killed much faster. And that is generally true in games like Reload or ranked Battle Royale at a higher rank like Elite, Champion and Unreal. Okay guys, the next thing I'm going to talk about is mats. Many people do this, even bots, because mats are a really important part of this game and it's what's made Fortnite special. Mats are really important because it can cover yourself up and make fights last longer and easier for you if you know how to use builds. Now generally, if you're watching this video, you probably do know how to use builds, but if you don't, I think you watch some tutorials and come back to this video since this is brief and it's for beginners and normal players and maybe even some good players. Now, the way you could know that you have low mats is just by looking at the corner. Most people know that. But another thing you have to be careful of, if you have low mats, like 300 mats, you can still do a fight, but it'll be less longing. And also if the other player has more mats, then it'll be hard for you because you have to conserve your mats, meaning that you'll be less protected from the other player. And also it'll be harder for you to move because when you move, you generally build a lot of mats. For example, let's say if you take a shockwave and you shockwave yourself, then normally people just build a few walls to cover their backs from the other opponent, but this actually soaks up a lot of mats. And with low mats, this can be a potential threat, a warning to not do a fight. That's why it's always important to look at your mats, unless you know that you have a lot. Now, this doesn't really affect you in early game because everybody will have low mats, barely any guns, and the only gun they'll probably have is a ranger or a tactical SMG. Finally, in endgame, mats consume a lot more. If you're in a competitive tournament, then there'll be so many people building. This can be kind of an advantage for you to move around and use a free defense. But always make sure you're building some walls, especially when you go to a halt, because some players can jump you if they have that wall, or if other players break it without you knowing and accidentally kill you, which is not a very good thing, and it happens to many pro players. So you should keep that in mind while you're in a sweaty endgame or just a casual hard endgame in ranked reload. Okay guys, the next one is positioning. This can be a pretty important factor. For example, a sweat is on a mountain. They are kind of skybasing using some cranking 90s and triple edits. You, however, are on low ground building a 4x4 box. Now, if you potentially try to kill this sweat, he is probably going to beat you, because high ground is much better than low ground. Because shooting from low ground is harder to aim with compared to shooting from high ground. And people in high ground can escape much easier. Generally, people on high ground are in a much better position than people who are on low ground. This is because they have more mats, better loot, and better positioning, which I'm right now talking about. So it's always good to have a fight with some movement, like shockwaves or a grappler. However, it is generally okay if you don't have any of them, because you do have a slight chance of running away. However, with a movement, it's much easier. So if you know that there's a good player who's your skill level or better than your skill level, it's always good and is sometimes a must to carry these stuff, because it could potentially help you from not losing your loot and dying from the game. Okay guys, finally, this is the last thing I'm going to be talking about, and it is third parties. These are very key because you have a high factor of dying if you don't listen to them. So first, let's talk about third parties. Many people know about third parties. It's generally a person who sees a fight and joins it at the correct time and kills both of them because they're low and they have low mats with less ammunition on their weapons. Now, this is generally a great thing to do. It can easily get you better loot, more mats, and more guns. Or also, it could give you more eliminations, which will help you from getting more points in a tournament or giving you those extra percent in rank to send you up a rank. It's always good to third party, but it's always bad if you are getting third party. This is very dangerous and is a one to avoid, because third parties can kill you much more easily, like I said. So if a third party does come, it's really easy to disengage from a fight because two people are fighting and they don't normally realize that you have left. Finally, there are some disadvantages in leaving. It can leave you with less mats, low HP. Okay guys, finally I'm going to give you a few maps to help you in this. So normally, casually, people play stuff like Super Red versus Blue, some maps like the Pillars, or maybe even minigame box fights. Now, that doesn't really help you in Fortnite. It can improve you, but it'll take much longer than other maps with harder players. For example, solo scrims, 1v1s, and tilted towers. These players generally have more aim, better mechanics, and are just better in game sense. this can help you in improving so much more than these silly games. And also, it'll give you some entertainment, which video games are all about. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and it helped you out, and I will see you in the next one.